Perfect Cell, one of the greatest villains of the Dragon Ball series, comes to Dragon Ball Super Fusion World Set 2, and now with Set 3 releasing, can Cell hold his own in the current meta? Well, let's find out today on this deck profile on Phil Plays TCG. Hey guys, welcome back to Phil Plays TCG, and today we are talking with Jamaid here with his Cell deck profile. You guys have been asking for it, and he is here to deliver. Thank you so much, Jamaid, for coming on the channel.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here as always. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I mean, you're an incredibly talented player. You have ranked very highly in a lot of regionals you've been at. So you know what? The pleasure and the honor is all mine.
I appreciate that.
All right. Well, like I said, people have been talking to, I've been asking about your Cell deck profile because you rep this deck quite a bit here on the channel. So let's go over what. So I guess the first thing is why Cell? Why do you like Cell so much?
So with Cell, I have just enjoyed his deck ever since I started playing it in set 2. It's just, I mean, it's only one set later, right? But the new tools that he got were just like super intriguing. So when I started playtesting him, he just felt so powerful playing him. So it was just very enjoyable. And I've just noticed that there's kind of two camps of playing him, right? You kind of have the value Cell games version, which is what I consider this to be. And then you also have the like ramp a lot version where you play a lot of like the farmers and tragedy. So I think both versions are super interesting, but I just love the leader a lot. I think he provides a lot of value for green players. So
I dig it. I like it. So let's talk about the Cell leader real quick. A lot of people do know his ability, but what is his ability one more time?
Yeah, for sure. So on the front side, he's just a regular draw leader, but on his backside ability, he has one ability that matters, and that's the fact that you can ramp from your drop a card that costs 3 or more when you're at exactly 5 energy. So the way the deck works out with some of the card choices, you do play this kind of loop game where you kind of loop yourself from 8 to 5, back to 8, and you just kind of play this resource game. So that's really, really nice. And this is the only leader that lets you play the cards in the deck in that way. So it's really, really nice for that as well.
Awesome, love it. And I have played against this deck several times, so I should be an expert in telling people this deck is cracked. Don't sleep on it. I did put it in the rogue tier in my tier list because I think the deck has a lot of potential, and in certain matchups, this deck will steamroll you. But let's talk about the deck profile.
Yeah, absolutely. So getting into it, we talked about the leader, but we can just get into the first few parts of it. We play 4 Bulma, and 4 Goku. So these are the cantrips. This is the cantrip engine of the deck. And we really just want to be consistent. Setting up cards to go to your drop is actually super important. So for your first few turns, as opposed to being super reliant on kind of that like go to 3 energy and ramp on that turn, we're just trying to use all 3 turns to build a board of cantrips that we can combo off that our opponent has to interact with, as well as just additional combo power and searching for our key cards in the early game. So playing 12 different cantrips just makes sure that between turns 1 and 3, you don't have like too many turns where you just say pass to your opponent. So that part is really important.
Agreed.
Yeah, no, 100%. And then moving on to the 2-drops, these are 2-drops that you actually don't really play too much on curve outside of playing the Trunks to attack. So we have Cell Jr., Trunks Future, and Hercule. All 3 of these kind of provide different things for the deck. So we'll start off with Cell Jr. This card is part of that loop that I was telling you guys about where when you drop it, yeah, this card is amazing, right? When you drop a Cell, you can play this card from free, and this card's on play it lets you pick up an extra card from your drop. So that is really, really nice. It's super useful, and just being able to play it for free is insane. And there's a couple combos that we'll get into later, but for the most part, what it does is lets you get access to that extra card when you're on 1 energy to defend yourself with.
Oh yeah, and you can even use. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but you can even use like Earth Destroying Blow, Destructive Strength. Oh no, sorry, Gigantic Meteor. I always get those two confused. Gigantic Meteor. You could basically you're playing Cell Jr. for free, grabbing Destructive Meteor or Earth Shattering Blow or Earth Destroying Blow, and then you're just swinging in for like 40k for 1 or 2 energy on a free body is kind of nuts.
No, it's super crazy and it's super nice because it's just this like self-encompassing combo. And with that too, like anytime that you're like, okay, I'm at 4 health, I'm not dying next turn. That means I'm swinging 40 into my opponent. You know what I mean? And
Right.
it's just such good value for a deck that this deck just prides itself on getting a ton of value. So that's where we're at for the combo pieces on sell. And then we have Hercule. This card is actually extremely important as well. It's a super important turn where you combo this card and actually the next card that we'll talk about in the 3 cost. This card is essentially a draw too. It's our green Go Tanks, and anybody that's played against blue or has played blue, they know how important that Go Tanks is for just resourcing your hand and rebuilding your hand to a place where you're super comfortable to defend yourself for one more turn to make it to the next turn to play a really important bottom card. So Hercule comes in, really feeds off grabbing those Balmas. If you can just take back 2 Balmas, you essentially get a super combo back to your hand, but it's a little bit better because you can break it up and use it however you want using the 210s. So that's really nice. And then I am on 4 Trunks Futures. This is probably the weirdest card in this slot, but playing it at 4 of is truly just because it has that 10k combo. So anytime that I don't put this card onto the board, it can sit in my hand and be the most effective card that I can't play on curve, right? Just because it has 10k combo.
Right.
But what it really provides for us is being able to play the game on turns 1 through 3, as opposed to just going to 3 energy and being like destructive strength. One thing that we can do is respond to our opponent's, crit 2 cost bodies, or if they did play any 1 cost vanillas that are swinging at us, or just any cards that are really pressuring us and getting us out of our comfort zone for what we can defend against. This card comes in and really helps us fight. And if you combine this with one of your cantrips, so if you go turn 1 cantrip and play this on turn 2, you can swing 30 into one of those 20k bodies. And it's just really, really effective for just being able to fight in that early game before you can get to your part of the game, which is the late game and the mid game, in my opinion. So
Right.
Going on to the 3 cost, this is just Android 17. This one just comboing with that Hercule. So the turn after you play another card in the deck, which is Cell Games Arena, you'll usually have either 6 or 7 energy. And playing this card for that turn is just amazing because you get this card reads for this deck, draw 1. It's a 20k body. You tap your Cell Games Arena to either ramp or draw for the turn, really whatever you need in that moment. But being able to just do it again is so effective for this deck, and it really combines with Hercule on that turn to let you get a draw 4 on the turn after you play Cell Games Arena, which we'll talk about in just a second here once we get down to Cell Games Arena. But playing this card at 2, you can up it to 3. I do feel like I find it decently consistent because you do only play this card on 1, maybe 2 turns throughout the game, so you truly do only need to see it once. So this deck is really focused on getting those that cycle going, finding your pieces, but not having too much in the deck to overclunk it in any parts of it. So
right,
it's amazing.
Yeah, oh yeah, every time we play, you always seem to find it. So
And it's just you have so many turns to find it, and that's the biggest thing, right? Because it doesn't come down on 3, it comes down on either 6 or 7. So if my priority is finding my stage first and then finding this card, and just gives you a lot of time to play your 12 cantrips and stuff. So it's really nice. This spot is also a new spot for Cell, in my opinion. It's playing the 4 cost Vegeta. This card is just because if we're playing against a super aggressive deck, like a deck that plays any 2 cost crit bodies, or any 2 cost bodies that are just truly giving us a problem, like if your opponent's playing Videl, and it's just a perfect loop where you can't combo more cards than they can get back off of their Videl, this card just comes down and says, all right, no more Videls, no more wasting my attack power or my combo phase swinging into your Videls, and I'm just going to get rid of it. I'm going to get rid of your Khalifas. I'm going to get rid of your Vegetas. And it really can save you before having to wait for your double strike android. So that's the big reason that this card came in. There's lots of 2-drops, honestly, in the game right now that are just really giving green a problem. So you just need to have a consistent answer to it. So this card is nice because it can interchange with your Cell Games Arena turn to still ramp you to get you to your 8 cost turn while getting you a body on board and letting you fight on board with something, as well as clearing a body. So this card is very important just for the kind of general line that you want to go down for green.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I love that card. It's been really nice. This card is also a new card. This card has kind of gone up and down in how many copies that we've played, just because if you've noticed, a lot of these cards are 10Ks. So anytime any of these cards don't get played and they just have to sit in your hand because you're tapping all your energy for a Broly or a Cell or whatever it is, these cards are perfect in your hand because they combo so much. So we have two of the Sun Gohan Childhood. This card clears black SCRs on curve. So instead of, if you're not going to draw a bunch of cards because you can't afford to because you're really behind, playing this card, getting rid of your opponent's black SCR, and then swinging 30 into a 20 is a really effective play to do on that turn. So I would like to see this card at maybe 3. It's just one of those testing slots that I'm really trying to figure out what needs to be at what. But that card is just really, it's efficient in certain matchups, and anytime you don't use it, it's combo. So.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Yeah, no, for sure. Here we have 2 Double Strike Androids. 2 just kind of feels like the number. There's lots of situations where red can run away with the early game. Even these new blue aggro decks can run away with the early game and get like 2 crit Vegetas on board and just cycle a Pilaf or a Videl. And it's really hard to get them off the board. So another way that you can go after you play your Cell Games Arena is tapping all that energy instead of playing it for a bunch of draw cards, and just take back the board and take back the pressure. So if your opponent's awakened and you can pop 2, swing your leader, get another body, and then swing your 40 double into their leader, it's crazy how much that can just flip a game state on its head, where you're just kind of behind and then you're just all of a sudden very ahead. So this card is just people. It's honestly insane. Yeah, no, Phil's played against it a ton, so
it's one of those PTSD moments where that comes down like, well, I'm in danger.
I know exactly what's about to happen here. So getting into the ACOS, this part is super important of the deck. I mentioned Broly earlier, but we are actually not playing Broly. We are just playing 4 of the old cell and 3 of the new cell. I feel like the old cell is just kind of speaks for itself, but we can talk about the combo really quick. So the general combo is you have a Cell Games Arena set up on board, and you tap 8 on 8 energy for Cell. Cell will drop you 3 energy, dropping you down to 5 energy. You get to pop 2 things on the board, so it's a really big comeback factor, and then you heal 1. So it's a huge comeback factor, to be honest.
God, it's so good.
It's so solid. After you get that heal 1, you can activate your leader's Awaken ability, ramp you to 6, and if you have Stage, you tap Stage to ramp you to 7, so you're able to drop another cell on the next turn. This general combo is just your bread and butter. It's just something you just have to have in your back pocket, and it's so consistent. For anybody looking at this lineup of 7 ACOS and just really wanting to play Broly, I definitely believe that you can play 3 of this cell if you are just like super disciplined with how you play with the deck and just don't overcharge. I like having 4 because it lets me charge one of them. It lets me see one off of my Cell Games Arena, not freak out about my decision making at that moment. And it gives me a little bit of freedom, but you absolutely can fit Broly in here. But talking about fitting Broly in is also talking about the cell slot. So this is the new cell. Really quickly, for anybody who doesn't know what this card does, it doesn't do what the old cell does as far as like working with your leader perfectly, but it's got this amazing effect where on play, you put all 6 cost or less cards on your opponent's side of the board into their energy. So for any color that's not green, that is their entire board. There's not a battle card that they can play on the board that can escape this effect. So having just a generic board wipe that can't be answered by anything but barrier is very powerful. But pushing your opponent from 5 to 11 energy is also very powerful. So it's one of those effects that you definitely have to balance. But his other ability is when he's KO'd, you can drop an energy to play him again in rest mode, and he's a 50k body. So against cards like, or decks like green, this card is just a not removable body that swings 50k every turn for the rest of the game, so it can get very insane. But the important part is that when you play against Jiren, this card answers 2 4-cost bodies on Jiren, and it's so important to constantly remove their Jiren before you enter your combat phase. So that's the reason that it's at 3. If you don't feel like you're going to see Jiren, or you're not too scared of Jiren at all, you can definitely play this at 2, play this cell at 3, and just squeeze in 2 Brolys and have a very efficient, very balanced top end. But I am super scared of Jiren. That deck is very crazy. So I have it built like this for now, but
makes sense. And the card is, I think, 50,000 power is like the strongest card in this game right now, and it's insane that it's on a rare card.
Yeah, that's so funny. I was able to build this deck. This was the first deck that I was able to build because I was like, when I was looking at my list, I was like, hey, this deck actually has uncommons and rares as my chase cards for the set. So it's just so easy to get this card in sleeves and be playing with my friends right away. So I
Hell
was
yeah.
super excited about that. But one of the things too with this card that people kind of do have to see is if you are playing it at this 3 cost, one of the things that the situation that comes up a lot is that you're looking at a deck like yellow where you want to play this to clear everything that doesn't have barrier, but like all those 20s that are just poking at you, right? But if your opponent is on a hand of 10 cards, usually what happens is you play this, you give them like 9 energy or 12 energy or whatever, and then they just play out their entire hand. So if you're able to survive that second onslaught of attacks and then you play a second one of these, that's usually how you close out a game utilizing the new cell. Playing 2 of these for any deck that isn't green is absolutely backbreaking because not a lot of decks can actually utilize more than like 10 energy other than blue. Blue can do it in a crazy way because then they can actually just P-lock loop all of that energy and make it a free energy burn. But outside of that, um, it's pretty crazy just dropping 2 of these back to back. So I love this new cell.
It's gross. Like it's one of those cards that like you drop it when you're going in for game and you want nothing on your opponent's board. But it is very important though. If your opponent has a decent number of cards in hand, probably not the best thing to play that because then you're just like more fuel for them next turn. But for the most part, if they got low hand size and then they just lose their entire board, it's just like game over.
Absolutely, especially if they can't kill it in combat. Even if they dump their whole hand and you just drop 1 energy to bring it back, it's backbreaking. So, 4 super combo. Please play 4 super combos in every deck. I still see people playing like Ginyu or other yellow decks without 4 super combos. So, and then the last card that we have to talk about really quickly: 2 Gigantic Meteor. I know a lot of people would think that this would be a 3 or 4 of. But the general just kind of breakdown for this card, you can play it at 2 of because you actually don't use this card outside. You can use it in the early game, but you don't usually use it in the mid game too much. It comes up on that turn where you're playing a Android 17 and a Hercule because you'll usually have 1 extra energy. But a lot of the time, honestly, it's just better to use this card as your charge so that you can keep your better cards in hand. And then when you play this 8-cost cell, you drop it from your energy, you do the thing where you get the energy back, and then you play a Cell Junior for free, and then you get it back, and you have it at the right time. This is the time where you have it set up with your 1 energy standing, defensively just healed, and you're trying to defend yourself. So those are the times when you need to find Gigantic Meteor, and just having 2 of, just like that Android 17, is just consistent enough where I'm not drawing this like on important turns, and having to constantly charge it, or having too many where I can only use 1, but I have 3 in my hand. So I really like 2 for that, and then 4 stage is just it's stage. The stage is very broken. It's why you would play so, and it's amazing. What the stage does is you can tap it to look at the top card of your deck, and then you either add that card to your energy or you add it to your hand. So just all together, it's an amazing card. But combined with Android 17, either ramping you from 6 to 8 for free, and then letting you just like draw a card during your next draw phase and not charge, or ramping you from 6 to 7 and drawing you a card within the same turn is just such good value for the deck. So
right, it's just, like the fact that this is one of those stages like you draw 1 or charge a card every turn for free, especially in comparison to Dr. Joe's Lab where you had to pay 1 to use it. It's exactly. It's the fact that Cell has its own unique little engine like that is absolutely phenomenal. But I love this deck list. It's so good. It does exactly what it needs to do. But for the folks at home, what are some of the best matchups, and tell me why it's blue, and then what are some what are some of its worst matchups?
No, for sure. So going over a few of the best matchups, the decks that you really want to see, this deck is very good into decks. Like, this is actually a really good deck that you want to play into black. If you see a lot of black at your locals, what you want to do is just kind of play the mid game equal to them, because on those turns where they're drawing 2 or 3 with like their secret rare and stuff, you can answer by drawing 4 with your Hercule, Android 17 combo, and then your leader swing. Establishing this sometimes feels a little bit slow, but you circle back to just have really explosive turns. So playing an 8-cost cell, getting rid of, even if it's 2 secret rares, and then swinging into a Bardock that's a dual attacker, that's a back-breaking turn for them, and then you just whittle down their hand. So it's one of those decks that just can't handle big guys, and then just like Phil's saying, it's just going to be blue, right? Blue has historically had a hard time with the numbers that green can produce. So like 45, right? So one of green or blue's kind of baseline defenses is Gallic Gun, draw a card, and then combo to get out of a 40k attack. Having it be 45 is just so backbreaking because now they have to combo an additional card where now they have to be seeing their super combos, where in a lot of other matchups, you kind of balance out seeing your super combos and seeing your Galax as a way to defend yourself really efficiently, but green just eats that up in your late game, so it's a little bit rough. This
Oh no, go on.
No. I was just gonna say this leader also just kind of does fine into anything that's like a little bit slower. So it's really looking for those mid game or mid range decks and those late game decks, just because we fight for that late game so aggressively with the draw four. The draw four is just insane, and I didn't go over it too much. So like what the play is that you play Cell Games Arena. You either have energy marker and 3 energy, and you tap to ramp to 4. Or you went first and you tap 4 and you ramp to, or you actually would tap in and draw. On your next turn, you charge the 5 leader ability, go to 6, and that's your draw 4 turn. Because with 6 energy, you tap Cell Games Arena, you either draw or ramp the card. You play this for 3, restand Cell Games Arena, do the same thing again. You play this, draw 2 cards, and then you swing your leader and draw cards. So it's truly a draw 4 on that curve. And having that in your back pocket is truly like just what you want to do versus mid-game decks. You have like the dual strike androids for those slightly earlier game setups and stuff. So those are really what you're looking for, 100%.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it gets really, really crazy, and just utilizing that consistently, because you can do that, once and then just go drop your 8 drops and use those to leverage advantage. But I would say your worst matchups are anything that is super aggro, anything that can rush you down before you're able to stabilize. Like any turn that you play this card and it feels like you're just so far behind, means that you truly are so far behind. You have to play this card and feel like, all right, this is what I'm doing. It's a little bit slow, but I know I'm going to bounce back. But if you think you're going to die on the turn that you play this, that is very hard to deal with. So super aggro decks like U7, Frieza, the 2-cost spam, that new Mecha Cooler deck, and just stuff like that can definitely be a scary sight for this deck.
Solid. And okay, and makes a lot of sense. What's really interesting about this is that really for set 3, there's only, let's see, the 4 common Bulmas, the 2 rare 17s, and the 3 rare cells. That's all really that set 3 is adding to this deck, but it makes a big difference.
It truly does. Even just from that extra cantrip, that perspective of it, having your turns 1 through 3 be now solidified is crazy. And then you add the power that the other 2 cards add, because they're just power cards at that point. You add the power that they add to the deck, and yeah, it does add a lot.
Wonderful. Well, hey, Jimmy, I love this deck list so much. I've played against it quite a bit. It's terrifying. It's why I think Cell is really, really good in this meta. Is there anything else you want to talk about the deck before we wrap it up?
I think I've mentioned everything, like kind of how to slot in Broly, because I know that's going to be one thing that a lot of people are looking at. If you play the deck and you want to slot in a 3rd meteor for consistency purposes, or a 3rd Android 17 for consistency purposes, you do have those options. So no, I think I've touched on everything. You just have a lot of wiggle room in the deck for sure. Okay. So,
and this is a 50 card deck or a 52 card deck?
I believe it's 51. I always go back and forth. I would have to count really quick, but I believe it's a 51 card deck just for just to fit in. I can't remember what the 51st card was. I believe it was the 4th Trunks, because I really wanted this card to be
right.
At 4. And I just ended up taking it out for 1 card, and I was just like, no, I want to see this on curve. So it's 51, but
yeah, it's such a good card. It's like 2-cost 25k beat stick that's solely there to destroy other battle cards on your opponent's board is phenomenal. And like you said, 10k combo. It's really never a dead card.
Yep, I love that about it as well.
All right, perfect. Well, hey, Jermaine, thank you so much for showing off the deck profile. I know a lot of people have been looking forward to it, so this is gonna make a lot of people happy.
No, thanks for letting me ramble about one of my favorite leaders in the game.
Any shout outs you want to give?
Well, I mean, just all the regular ones. Shout out to Viral. They always help me out and just make sure that I'm able to have some place to play. Shout out to all the homies in Minnesota that helped me play test and everything. Shout out to Cody Cody really helped me do a lot of play testing with this. So, and shout out to you, obviously. Shout out to Phil Plays. Thanks for having me on the channel and just always giving me a place where I'm able to play and hang out. So I always appreciate that.
Oh man, you're an absolute gentleman and a scholar, sir. All right, well guys, thank you so much for checking out this video. Make sure to drop a comment down below what you think of the deck profile, what you think of Cell in general, And make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. We are so close to 2,000 subs, and you should do it. You should help me hit that goal because that'd be super cool of you.
We would be.
Right. All right, guys. We'll see you on the next video. Take care.